So I think I might be cursed. Hey, how are you? It's been a minute. I will review some books today because I did read a few, not as many as usual, but I did read some books in February and I have been meaning to tell you about them for weeks now. So this will be a wrap-up video, but first I will do a little bit of a life update because life has occurred, which is why there haven't been videos in a few weeks. Life has occurred. If you're only here for books, you can skip ahead to the timestamps as usual. Otherwise, we're here for a life update. So let's recap how 2023 has been going for me so far. I had a bacterial infection in both my eyes. I had sinusitis. I had throat stuff, generally sick. I was sick most of January. Then I kind of recovered. Then I got COVID. My partner and I both got COVID. We were wiped for a solid 2 weeks. And finally, on the Friday, I was able to leave my house after 2 weeks of COVID. I was trying to get back into the swing of things. I put out a video earlier that week, and I was like, let's go. And Monday, just a few days after that, we had to do an emergency vet visit. And I am now someone who only owns one cat, not two. And if you've been on the channel at all, and if you've seen, especially if you've seen any of my vlogs, you will know how much I love my cats, how much they mean to me. So in case you didn't see this in any other context, just gonna say it, Willow's dead. My adorable fireball of a cat, my sweet darling, passed away very suddenly about 3 weeks ago now, a little over 3 weeks ago. And I spent probably about 10 days just crying, I think. I didn't really sleep. I barely ate, mostly just cried. And it's like I was already behind on everything from being sick for like 2 months. So I got really behind on everything. Work stuff, life stuff, family stuff, other responsibilities, just behind on everything. And I also just couldn't focus. I think grief is really difficult, and I think reading while grieving can be really, really hard because just my mind wasn't able to fully engage. I did very little. I couldn't really watch TV. I can really read. I can really do anything other than just look at pictures of my dear Willow and be really sad and miss the way she would run up to the door when we came in and say hi, and miss the way she asked for her breakfast in the morning, and miss the way that she would visit me while I was reading late at night, and just missed her little activation noises and merps and her stealing food from me, and just missing her a lot. And I think I just spent most of my energy trying to be able to function at work. Because I couldn't take a lot of time off. I'd already taken a lot of time off for being sick. So I really just didn't have a lot of days left. So I basically had to go to work while I was crying my eyes out. Yeah, so that's why you haven't heard from me. It's a really sad life update, I gotta say. Willow's death was really unexpected. She was only about 10 years old. I got her in August of 2018? August of 2017, sorry. Yeah, August of 2017. So I'd had her for like almost 6 years. And when I got her, they told me she was about 5, so about 10, 11. Turns out she'd been sick for a while and just hadn't shown any signs in typical cat fashion. And I don't want to go into the gruesome details, but she had quite a severe medical emergency. And when we took her to the vet, at first things seemed good, but within a few hours it was clear that she actually wouldn't make it through the night. So we got to be with her in her last moments. We got to hold her. We got her ashes 2 weeks ago now, so only a week after. Yeah, and it's just been really hard and really sad. So I've been really sad. So I really haven't been reading much because I've been so sad. And yeah, it's just really sucked. It's just really, really sucked. And I know some of you watching did like reach out to me and talk to me, and I just really appreciate that. I'm really grateful to have friends who understand that it's not just a cat. It's not just a cat. um, so yeah, I lost one of my best friends a couple of weeks ago, and I miss her so much. I have no idea how to segue from that into a book review. So yeah, that's why I think I might be cursed. It's just really been a really bad few months. And today's March 15th. Today's the Ides of March. Julius Caesar was cursed. He was cursed worse than me, so I guess that's a comfort. So yeah, I've just been trying to get back into the swing of things. I have been going to cat yoga, which has been helpful. I actually went the day after we lost Willow and just got to like be really sad in cat yoga, and the instructor like gave me a hug and stuff. It was wonderful. And I'm gonna go to the gym a little bit since my body's now healthy. That has also been helping a lot, trying to get into the swing of things, trying to get into the routine. I'm finally back to reading every night after a week of just literally not reading a single page. Like a week of no reading is not something I've done for years now. So that was really difficult. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I need to make some YouTube. I need to do some YouTube. And just like, I have been tired. I've been so tired. But I decided today's the day. I decided that today's the day and that I miss you and that it's time for a video. So, hi. Hi, that's why we're here. Life is hard and challenges come from all around, and grief and illness and pain are all part of it. And one of the things that helps me the most in the world are books and ideas and stories and connecting with people about them. I really miss doing this actually. It's been kind of therapeutic to talk to the camera. Hello, camera. Hello, person. Hello, you. I need a list because February was several weeks ago and it was one dead cat ago. So I have a dark sense of humor. It's how I cope. Okay, so it turns out I only finished 5 books in February, and I say only, but actually it's a lot. That's like a book a week, more than a book a week. I just gotten so used to this like almost breakneck speed of reading, but I really told myself that this year I want to take some time and I want to spend some time with longer books too. So I finished a whole 5 books in February. Let's reframe that. I finished a whole 5 books. And the first one I finished is a nonfiction book called The Chaos Machine by Max Fisher. This was really interesting. It was a chunky book that went through sort of the history of social media, the internet, and radicalization online from like 2013, 2014, like Gamergate, essentially, all the way through the pandemic, essentially. I'm really interested in this idea that the media that we're consuming is being tailored to what keeps us clicking and what keeps us watching and what keeps us engaged. It's not. So we're all consuming different media, we're all getting different information, we're all getting different news. And because we're all getting different information, of course, we're all coming to different conclusions. And as we come to different conclusions, then the information we get only reinforces those conclusions. And it's led to a really interesting and kind of horrific way in which human beings have been interacting about complex issues that require nuance. And I really do think that a lot of it has to do with how our news consumption and information consumption has changed. Our news consumption and our media consumption has become like super individualized, meaning our opinions become really individualized. But there's obviously a very big danger in that, and confirmation bias abounds. And I've just become fascinated by this idea, and it's really a phenomenon that I've seen a lot in different online spaces, different online communities. And it's a phenomenon that I've also, I don't want to say fallen for, but I have definitely found that I held certain beliefs or certain thoughts in a way that I was like almost tribal about it and didn't want to even entertain. Like, I was like, no, I'm right. And it's been really interesting to consciously try and engage with viewpoints I disagree with in good faith. And I think that's become increasingly difficult to do so in good faith because we're constantly getting reinforced that our ideas, our worldview, etc., are the correct ones because they're constantly being mirrored back at us from this little doohickey that we hold in our hand for 8 hours a day. All right, if you're interested in that, if you're interested in how like the algorithm, the great algorithm, including the YouTube one, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and how Facebook, especially Facebook groups, which I didn't know a lot about, but apparently that is a very influential part of the internet. Um, if you're interested in how those can polarize people and how can what happens online can have real world impacts that are frankly often not that great, this is a really fantastic book for you. So I did rate it 4 stars. Why did I rate it 4 stars? Let's find out. There's nothing weirder than reading about how COVID conspiracies spread on social media while you're having COVID for the first time. Oh, yeah, this is my COVID book. I was born in 94, which means that this book covers the time period from my entire like post-secondary education, like 2012 onwards, basically, and it's such a doozy. And my main gripe with the book is that the title suggests a broader scope than what is actually presented. So I really thought we would talk about like the internet slot machine and the addictiveness of it, and like intermittent reinforcement. I really thought that that was going to come into play, and like instant gratification and how the amount of instant gratification we can get when it comes to news and socialization, how that affects people. Um, so a lot of these sort of more obvious topics weren't actually touched on. Instead, the focus was specifically on how social media, but like especially Facebook, and all the other social media was almost seen as like Facebook adjacent. Um, so how it affects the sociopolitical landscape. So Gamergate, South Asian genocides, COVID hoaxes, Pizzagate, Alex Jones, election fraud, incel murders, live streamed massacres. This book is extremely dark, like extremely, extremely dark. But I think the most interesting thing was the emphasis on how much emotions are what drive engagement. So, what increases engagement the most is outrage and morally coded language. Basically, if you want to increase engagement, you need to show your audience the other side has done something awful. Let's be mad at them. Because that drives the clicks. And I'm definitely drawn to that. I'm definitely drawn to that. There's a side that I will align myself with, and I will definitely enjoy reading about the other side being ridiculous. I think there's a big temptation to do that. So there was a lot of this like exploration of in group versus out group. So yeah, posts like X group did something bad or our group did something good are really gold for these platforms, and they get people to stay online and engaged for as long as possible. So this really made me reflect, like, if and when is outrage useful, because sometimes outrage is useful. Sometimes like righteous outrage, whatever we want to call it, can be very motivational, can be very useful, can be very interesting. um, but it did also make me want to be more mindful, especially when I'm engaging in spicy content. um, that does get me riled up, because am I riled up because I have all the facts objectively, or am I riled up because my side is presenting a certain situation from a certain perspective that allows me to feel good about myself and bad about other people, or good about my position, bad about another position. And I don't think there's like a right answer to this, but I think it was really interesting to sort of bring this into my consciousness and try and be more mindful with how I respond to certain things. Um, honestly, very challenging. I think we've been extremely polarized online. Um, and again, it's such a interesting phenomenon. A last like terrifying thought that this book really leaves us with is like, is the internet above the law? And if so, like, if not, well, which law should the internet follow? Like, who enforces the rules, if any? Is it moral to not do rules on the internet? Like, to for the internet as a whole to be able to have horrible illegal things on it? but illegal by whose standards? Which country should regulate the internet? How do we regulate the internet? I think it's these things that I knew objectively but had never fully reflected on and engaged with, and I really appreciated how they were presented in the book. It really got me thinking about the topics a lot. So I really recommend this if you're into like social psychology, wonder why some of your annoying relatives are in so many Facebook groups and spewing stuff that sounds completely irrational. And if you're in the mood for being really depressed and kind of horrified by the state of the internet, I recommend this. It's good nonfiction. Read it. I listened to this on audiobook when I was sick with COVID, and it hurts to say this, but the title of the book is the best part of the book. I want to die and I want to eat tteokpokki. Yeah, tteokbokki's amazing. They reopened a Korean restaurant I really liked down the road from me recently, and their rice cakes are great. The title is just such a banger because it's the idea of like pairing suicidal ideation against small joys of life that make it worth living, and I think that's a really interesting tension to explore. And I was really hoping that we would see a little bit of that, but that's really not what we saw. I like really wanted to read this book based on the title alone, and maybe I shouldn't do that. So this isn't actually a book. It's a transcript of therapy sessions with a little bit of like diary entries about the therapy sessions at the end, which are really just summing them up. And quite frankly, the therapist is not very good. Feels kind of awful to say that, but the sessions just aren't particularly productive, aren't particularly interesting. Things go in circles, and I didn't really find anything that insightful, which is really unfortunate because it's a very vulnerable thing to record your own therapy sessions, transcribe them, and publish them. And I do commend the author for doing that, but I just don't think that they landed. So a lot of the sort of therapist approach was like the client, the author, would say something like, "Oh, I feel this way," and the therapist would say, "Well, have you considered not feeling that way? Or have you considered that it's actually okay that you feel this? Or how do you know that you actually feel that? Maybe you feel something else." Like it was generic. It wasn't insightful. Like an AI could have done the job of the therapist, I guess. So I think that was really annoying, is that both the therapist and the author towards the end acknowledged that this is not particularly productive. So it almost felt like this was like, we grabbed some unproductive therapy sessions and put them in a book. Voila, this is performance art. Gave it a cool title. I really wouldn't recommend this. If you like this title and you want to read like a self-help memoir with therapy transcripts, I really recommend Stephanie Foo's What My Bones Know. I think the subtitle is like A Memoir of Healing from Complex Trauma or something like that. I was looking for that book when I picked this up, I think. I was expecting something similar, and I think this book wanted to be something like What My Bones Know, but it just wasn't. So it pains me to say I actually gave this a 1 star, and it's largely forgettable. It was actually really hard to review this without just explicitly reading my Goodreads review because I barely remember it. So when I'm sick or when I'm just like not feeling great and I need a distraction, which was the case when I was recovering from COVID, I just really need like thrashy. I really need a trashy thriller, a thrashy thriller, if you will. So that's why I read One of Us is Lying. And my impression going into this was someone read The Breakfast Club and they were like, wait, this could be a murder mystery. So they did that. And this was really fun. I actually really enjoyed this. Like, it was a solid like 3 stars. It's not like great literature or anything, but it was fun to read. I guessed the ending towards the end, I'd say, but it was one of many possible options, and all the other options were possible. I guess like actually plausible. Within the context, within the universe that the book created. Because again, like teen thrillers, I think I've said this before when talking about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, teen thrillers operate in their own logic. The amount of freedom and the amount of like bizarre soap opera style drama that happens is extremely unrealistic and just not characteristic of what life as a teenager is, unless things have drastically changed in the last like 10 years. I mean, I'm only 29. Like, I, I remember being a teenager. I feel like a teenager who lives by herself at this point in my life. Do you ever outgrow being a teenager? Please tell me. Please tell me if that is the case. So the premise of this book is really absurd. Like, five teenagers who are loosely acquainted at best are in detention for something that they didn't do. One then goes into anaphylactic shock and dies shortly after. His drinking water was contaminated with peanut oil. His drinking water. Who killed him? The four remaining teenagers walk us through the weeks that follow, the investigation, and the small town secrets and lies that are revealed. So all the four teenagers are all four of them are narrators. So we alternate between four perspectives, which is fun because you get like the unreliable narrator vibe from all of them, and you're trying to sort of piece things together objectively. Yeah, we learn about the investigation, the small town secrets. So many lies are revealed. There's tropes, there's cliches, but I found myself so entertained and like really anticipating the answer. I was looking forward to it. So I am like I do recommend this if you're just looking to be entertained. It's a fun book, honestly. If you're okay with reading about a lot of dramatic teen romances, because a lot of this was just like teen romance drama, but you do want to read a thriller, like a fun little murder mystery, have a couple of hours to kill, I do recommend this. It didn't leave me angry the way some trashy thrillers do. And that's really sort of the bar for me, is whether I'm upset at the end or not. This was like satisfying enough and consistent enough with its internal logic that I was like, okay, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I just went to go read the review for Sweet Bean Paste, which was the next book that I finished, and I finished it a couple of days after Willow died, or before, around that time, around the time of Willow's death. So there's no review on my Goodreads page, only a 4-star rating, which is fair. And I can't remember if it's because I didn't write one or that I wrote one and it got lost in, it does the mobile app, doesn't send my review. It's crashed on me only a couple of times, but enough that it's been annoying. So let's see what I remember about this book, Sweet Bean Paste. I thought it was going to be more of a romance based on the cover. I was a little like hesitant about it because I really thought it would be more of like a shy baker meets cute girl romance, and that's not what it was. And I was really happy that that wasn't what it was. So we follow our main character, and he works making like red bean pancakes, essentially. I forget the word in Japanese, but pancakes filled with sweet red bean paste. And they sell pretty well. He works at this little like stand cafe, like it's a little like hole in the wall sort of place where people stop by to get these pastries, essentially. And one day, an elderly woman, like clearly past retirement age, comes by and she's like, I want to work for you. And he's like, no, I don't need you to work for me. Also, you look like you're about to fall over and die. Her hands are like disfigured. And she doesn't look very like well. She looks very worn and just like time has not been kind to her. And eventually she negotiates to work for very, very little money. Very little money. And tells him like, just give me a try one day. Like just give me a one day trial. So he does, and she makes a sweet bean paste that is better than any he's ever tasted. Like, he absolutely loves it. It's amazing. So he keeps her on, and he's not actually the owner. He's working to repay debts to the actual owner, who is now dead, and his wife is like administering the account. Anyway, he's not the top dog in the store, but he's the top dog that's there every day. So he's able to hide it from the owner that he's hired a new employee, because she's like making so little money. And then he gets to know her, and she gets to know him, and this feels a little bit like a spoiler. So if you want to miss if you want to just skip the next 30 seconds, if you want to go into this blind, I'll spoil right now. So this old woman, this elderly retiring woman, has lived in a hospital for lepers for basically her whole life since she was a teenager. She was not allowed to leave. She was not allowed to go anywhere. because she had leprosy. Okay, I'm gonna stop the spoiler there. So, welcome if you're back, if you skip the spoiler. But given that context, we get to find out more about her life, and we also get to find out about his life. And it's a really sad story about, and like a meditation on isolation, on friendship, on the point of life and of living and the beauty of small things. It's such a gentle book. It's such a little like literary, lovely, nothing happens but your heart feels full at the end of it kind of book. Um, and there was enough exploration of grief that it was really relevant for me at the time. So it like really just resonated with me and tugged on my heartstrings. If you like translated literature, if you like gentle literature, if you feel like being kind of sad, but in a beautiful way, I recommend this. Sweet Bean Paste was wonderful. Okay, book number 5. I promised you that the reading vlog for this is coming, and it is coming. I've actually like edited most of it. I just haven't filmed or edited my conclusion of reading this. For You and Only You, the 4th Joe Goldberg novel. It's coming out in a month. I got an advanced reader's copy. I was so happy. And it really hurts me to say, I gave this 2 stars and that felt kind of generous. This was a slog. I like trashy thrillers. I like weird, unrealistic stuff. As long as it's funny, as long as it entertains me, I'm happy. This did not entertain. This did not entertain at all. I haven't watched season 4 of You yet. I probably won't before I put out the video because I think I just want to put it out like next week or something. So you'll get my whole thoughts on the series with spoilers. But what I'll tell you as a spoiler-free version of this is Joe Goldberg in this novel he joins a writer's workshop, like a 6-week writer's workshop at Harvard. So the man who has never been to college in his life is now like, oh, I'm a Harvard person. He's like, I'm better than all these other Harvard college graduates because I have taught myself and they're all pretentious and awful and I'm not. Which is hilarious already. And of course he falls in love with someone else at his writing group, specifically who she has also not gone to college, so he thinks that the 2 of them are better than everyone else because the 2 of them don't think that they're better than everyone else. It's a very Joe Goldbergy Goldbergy logic. It's a very Joe Goldbergy logic. So he falls in love with this one woman who, like, really, I didn't really get characterization of her. I feel like I got a better sense of the love interests from the previous books. Well, she just kind of felt like Love Quinn but poor. It's kind of the vibe. I don't know. Maybe I was just sick of the shtick by that point, but it really didn't hold my interest, and it's a weird thing to say, but there weren't enough murders in this book. There just weren't. So I was frankly kind of disappointed, and it really took me a while to finish reading this. I think I read it over 3 weeks, and I just like finished it out of spite. Like I genuinely just wasn't interested in what's going to happen in the story. So yeah, if you want to hear more about the plot, I will be talking about it extensively, spoilering everything so that you don't have to read this. It's a I read it so you don't have to situation, honestly. Which is a terrible thing to say about a book I got an advanced reader's copy for, but oh, I liked the first 3. I didn't like this one. But yeah, I will be putting out my video really soon, hopefully, unless life decides to keep throwing punches, which historically life does that, but hopefully they won't be as bad as the last few months. Everything's gonna be okay, right? Everything's gonna be okay eventually. Spring's gonna come. Everything's gonna be okay. I hope. I hope. But yeah, this was a 2-star read. And that's actually everything I finished in February. It was, by my standards, not a lot of books. By a lot of people's standards, it was many books. It just goes to show this whole thing is relative. February sucked for me. It was really a really freaking terrible month, actually. It was a really, really bad month and a really rough time in my life. So thank you so much for your patience with me with the channel. I haven't been posting, but you guys have still been around and commenting, and I got a beautiful, wonderful surge of new subscribers. Thanks to a shout out video that a book olive made. Thank you so much. And that was just like so sweet. So I'm really glad that you've checked out the channel, you come to see what's going on, and stuck around even with the really poor timing of me having to go on hiatus for a couple of weeks. I did not expect to talk for like an hour straight today. I just sort of told myself, all right, today's the day. Like, I washed my hair, I put on a nice sweater, it's time to film. That was really the main reason we're talking today. And also it's almost halfway through March, like it's pretty much the midpoint of March, so I should really do a February wrap-up is kind of what I realized. Because in a few weeks it'll be March wrap-up time. And I do have some exciting things coming up for you. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, that life treats you kindly, and I hope you read something wonderful that makes you really happy. Okay.